I was actually hoping to read to you from the book I've got in front of me, which are the diaries of Captain William Bligh.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Excellent.
I now served a teaspoonful of rum to each person, for we were wet and cold, with a quarter of breadfruit, which was scarce eatable.
What is that accent?
I see you've gone for
Captain.
You've gone for the bounty approach to the character.
It's the most definable accent I could remember.
Mr. Fire, sir! Come back here, sir!
Get out of the
Oh dear. Terrible. So I'm ready for a meeting if you guys are.
I'm ready.
Could be interrupted by a baby at any second. I've got one eye on her on the monitor.
Or a cat.
I'll at some point have to get up and let my cat back in.
Okay, we can have a little soothing babies and cats break.
Great. Ready?
Ready?
Yeah. I'm ready.
Well.
So we picked another bounty film.
In the wake of the bounty.
And so the prophecy was fulfilled.
Yes, we had to go 4 for 4, didn't we?
Yeah.
Before we get to the 100th episode.
And if they ever unearth the 1917 lost Mutiny on the Bounty film, I'm sure we will watch that as well.
That will be like emergency bat phone, film club assemble. There's a bounty film that's been rediscovered. And it could happen, right? They do lose films that do turn up sometimes.
Yeah.
So who knows? Anyway, on the strength of this one, I kind of hope they don't. So yeah, this was the 1933 film In the Wake of the Bounty. Not a drama, but
based on a drama.
Based on a drama with it's kind of half a travel documentary.
Yeah.
And half a drama, just not a... how do we experience this? Fernando, what did you think of In the Wake of the Bounty?
Well, I think that you can tell that people were busy fighting a war in Europe because I don't know. This is my least favorite of all the bounty films that we have watched.
Yeah.
Even though I did appreciate the second half where we learn more things about the people, about the descendants of Christian Fletcher.
Yeah.
And the people that decided to live in what is now the French Polynesia.
Yeah, Pitcairn Island.
Mm-hmm.
Pitcairn Island, yes.
Which I think is still I think it's still a British overseas territory. And yes, it's still called Pitcairn Island.
Well, I guess I did not Google Pitcairn Island. I only Googled Tahiti because this time I wanted to know where Tahiti was. And after so many films, I finally know where Tahiti is.
Wonderful.
And it kept redirecting me to French Polynesia. And I was, no, not French Polynesia. I want to know where Tahiti is. And I've now learned that Tahiti is an island in the French Polynesia.
Yeah. It's not just Britain that likes having countries in its country. Excellent. Yeah, so you learned something, but it wasn't a good film.
No, not only that, it was a strange film. Was it even filmed in a boat?
I wondered whether parts of it were filmed in a boat. Because if they weren't, then they did at least rock the camera from side to side, which is worth something.
Do you think there was
in those days
some
were big
CGI
things.
over there?
Was there a lot of CGI, do you think?
Certainly a lot of taping bits of film together, I think.
Yes.
That counts as early CGI.
Yeah, there were special effects, weren't there?
Yeah.
There was something. Laura, what did you think of the film?
I mean, they certainly came a long way in the 1960s, didn't they?
Yeah.
Hard to call it anything but total crap. But
yes, sadly.
Some merit. And we got to see the film debut of Errol Flynn. That was exciting. I can't believe he went on to be a star.
Yeah. It wasn't
I would say that man's
audition,
not a natural actor. In fact, looks very uncomfortable in front of a camera.
Just terrible, right?
Oh, God, it was awful. But I enjoyed myself. I had a good time.
Great. Claire? I'm bracing myself.
Yeah, I mean, your laugh says it all, doesn't it?
This is one time where I think you might be actually quite justified in whatever opinion you're about to release.
Well, no.
Well,
so the documentary parts I found quite interesting.
Yeah,
quite interesting.
Yeah, I found the documentary parts
the rest
quite interesting for about 10 minutes. That was good.
Yeah. It wasn't particularly well narrated, and the choice of what they showed was poor. But, it was at least better than the rest of the film. So there is that. Yeah, it was just terrible, wasn't it? The acting, the dialogue.
Shoddy editing.
The editing, the stage. It was short. That's a redeeming feature.
Yeah. Short enough.
It did not feel short, though.
Do you remember the bit in is it A Midsummer Night's Dream, where they're putting on the play and the advisor says to the king, "It is a play some 17 words long, my lord, but by 17 words too long."
What did you think, Michael?
This was bad. It was kind of interesting in a few ways. Firstly, I think I agree with you, Claire. The documentary bit was interesting. I got quite a lot out of it because it was an interesting documentary, even for the time, telling about like a really interesting group of people. But it's also sort of become accidentally interesting as a historical artifact in its own right. That way of life on Pitcairn Island no longer exists. They actually captured something that has now disappeared, and something quite valuable and quite tangible and quite real. And I found that really quite emotive somehow, just that they didn't quite know what they were doing when they were making that film, which I think they were thinking about, this year this is going to be in cinemas. And people will love it and they'll learn about Pitcairn Island. And what they didn't think was people in 100 years will be able to watch this and be like, wow, this is something that's almost giving us a link back to Fletcher Christian's time, just that little bit closer to those days that seem so lost. And that was kind of brilliant. The drama part was appalling. And I've heard people make fun of this thing. They said, like, when Talkies first came out, which I think was 1927, was the jazz singer, right?
Could be. Don't know. I don't know.
They say that there were plenty of people who'd been in motion pictures, in films for years, but they were used to silent films, and that when they tried to adapt to speaking roles, they were just terrible.
Michael, tell us the story of the bounty. I've never heard the truth of it.
Yes, Michael, you old son of a gun. I'd sell me breeches to hear the truth of that mutiny.
You remember? You said the tune you played just now brought back memories.
They just had no idea what they were doing, and that, like, loads of studios and actors just floundered, just did awfully for years. And this is a real example of that. I think some of the bits where they just deliver this line with such enormous emphasis on every syllable in such an unnatural way, and like not even particularly important lines. I think just so that because they were used to like delivering the lines so that you could see their lips moving and then the title card would come up. And yeah, just shocking. Like you'd expect better from like amateur high school students nowadays. The only actor that was kind of okay was Bly, right? Who actually put a bit of like character into it.
Your choice of seaman surprises me, Mr. Christian. You've picked a bunch of thieving jellyfish.
And all the others were like just shouting or just reading the lines, and I can't believe how bad Errol Flynn was for such a sort of iconic, I'm going to say quite good actor, even in things that came out only a few years later. But something just went terribly wrong. Yeah, appalling. Yeah, I was glad it wasn't just that all the way through.
Yeah, they were all acting like the what's that quiz of the year thing? You know, where they get the primary school kids to read a play.
The Nativity and the Big Fat Quiz of the Year.
That's the one, Big Fat Quiz of the Year.
Oh no, it's not a Nativity. Yeah, no, they have to guess what soap it is or whatever, don't they?
I haven't seen that. That sounds great.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're like really young children of like 6 or 7 or something. They get to, and they're in fact better than some of the actors that we saw in this film.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's got to be something to do with directing. Just the director not quite knowing how to use this technology. This came out. So this was in 1933. This film came out, and the film we watched with Clark Gable, Mutiny on the Bounty, came out 2 years later.
Incredible. You'd think it was 20 years later.
Yeah, I can't. In that way, I kind of can't excuse it. It can't be that it came on that much in 2 years. It's got to be that these guys were just amateurs, like making a travel documentary rather than actual people in the heart of Hollywood that were up to date with the state of the art.
No, they knew how to make films at this point. These people didn't know how to make films.
These people clearly didn't know. I mean, even something like we've seen a couple of silent films from this, like Nosferatu, had some art to it and had some. Again, so the acting in that was very over the top, and I just wonder if that would have stood out like a sore thumb if they'd had sound. But still, surely they'd have done better than this. I found it. Is this weird? It put me off my food. Was anyone else eating?
No, I didn't. I didn't try and eat.
No, Claire, you were eating, weren't you?
I don't remember. It didn't affect me as much as.
I'm not sure what it was. I think it's something to do with it being so old, or something to do with their weird makeup, or something. Just put me a bit on edge and made me kind of disgusted. I had the same feeling watching A Trip to the Moon. That there was a silent film from 1905, I think, like way back. That's kind of interesting historically, but something about it's just it's like watching clowns or something. Just this weird, sort of out of place, out of time feeling. I couldn't put my finger on it.
It's also jittery, isn't it? Everything's just jittering. Like the camera's all jittery and the people are just so awkward.
Yeah, and the picture has so much noise, but like not in a way that I'm used to. And
some really unnatural makeup and stuff as well.
Yeah, nothing looks quite real or properly human.
Yeah, I mean, bloody Fletcher Christian with his like Egyptian pharaoh makeup, just terrible. And yeah, something about it bothers me in kind of a primeval way, which is not something I've said about any of the films we've watched so far.
This was viscerally upsetting to you.
Yeah, it bothered me deeply.
Wow.
As I say, that was the acting bit, and the documentary was not so bad.
How should we get into this? Should we do the acting bit first?
Yeah, well, so I've told you what I think of the acting. Well,
like the fictionalised bit, I mean, and then deal with the documentary.
Yeah, okay.
I have an issue with films of this structure anyway. or like documentaries of this structure where they dramatise certain scenes, in case you just like, because you couldn't possibly imagine what it would be like for two people to have a conversation. And so that bothers me. I always find that ruins the documentary and doesn't make for a good story, like a film story sort of thing. But then they were just terrible, the cutscenes. So not only did it take me out of the narrative, it didn't like hold my hand in any sort of useful way. It wasn't like an unnecessary crutch for me. It was like someone tripping me up halfway through. So many
Someone's
mixed
telling you an
metaphors.
interesting story and then poking you in the eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Really bad.
I enjoyed some of the line deliveries.
Enjoyed?
You know how I enjoy... Well, we differ. Sometimes I enjoy a film of this kind of nature.
That's true, yeah.
This was similar. It wasn't one of the ones that I don't like. Like, there's some that are just too crap, even for me.
This one was not too crap.
I mean, it was crap, but I think it doesn't ruin it for me if I don't think that they think it's crap. I think they thought they were doing something good.
Yes, okay.
So that's fine for me, and now I can laugh at them for being such idiots.
It felt so worthy though, didn't it? It felt like they thought they were doing this amazing piece of...
They were giving us hours of pleasure. They said that at the beginning.
Did they?
This is the first of your many hours of pleasure.
Oh, I'm glad I missed that. I was thrown up.
Yeah, it didn't make sense to me that they had someone in a tavern telling the story who was supposed to be one of the mutineers.
No, so
that's just an illogical...
How did he get back?
They didn't feel the need to justify that.
Right, yeah.
Maybe they were in Tahiti.
Maybe they were in a pub, one of those Tahitian pubs full of English people. Who've never heard the story of the bounty.
Was there a blind fiddler on the bounty? You'll know this.
Sorry?
Was the fiddler on the bounty blind? This is the sort of thing you might know. Was there a reason he was a blind fiddler?
I've never heard of the fiddler being blind on the bounty.
What an odd fiction.
Just adding they're adding layers. It's a layered film. You know, it's got depth.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, what have we got to? What were we talking about?
We were about to dissect the fictionalised parts of the film.
Yeah.
Yep. I just had a rant about that format.
Yes, the docudrama, bit of documentary, bit of drama format. I've never seen it done particularly well.
No.
And I've definitely seen it done badly.
Seems like not a good advertisement for it either.
No. the most I've enjoyed is like documentaries with like a few things on screen. They'll have like an actor standing in a room and it looks like just for something visual to go along with what the person's saying.
Like David Starkey documentaries.
Yeah, exactly, like David Starkey documentaries.
Like the Speed Cubers.
Like the Speed Cubers.
Oh, that didn't have acted scenes though, did it?
I don't remember acted scenes.
Aren't we all acting?
Maybe Felix was a big liar.
Oh, what's his name was in the news the other week, wasn't he?
Yes. Yeah, what had he done? He'd broken his own record. What was the kid called? Not Felix, the other one.
Max,
yeah.
Yeah, I think Max has broken his Speed Cube record.
Nice. Well done, Max.
Yeah.
Wait,
he's
could you
doing
actually
great.
remember the name
Proper
of the
adult
people?
now.
Sorry?
Could you actually remember the name of the two people in the Speed Cubers?
I follow Felix on Instagram and he posts about Max sometimes.
What?
Excellent.
Is this because you're a little bit in love with Felix? Or
Yeah.
Still, yeah.
If I ever move to Australia, I'll probably not meet up with him, to be honest.
No, he's probably beating them off with a stick, right?
I imagine so.
All the honeys watching the speed cubing documentary.
It's basically like the Fast and the Furious sort of hot babes.
Yeah. Speed Cuba's wives.
Spags.
Sorry, so possibly bad format for the thing then. Could have been all right if either of the parts were done well.
Yeah.
So what do we think of the whole frame narrative? The whole, he's in the pub in merry old England and he says, "I recall the bounty." Is that lame? Do we like a frame story?
I normally hate a frame story, but it actually kind of worked for me. I liked it when we went back to the pub.
I couldn't quite figure it, because he was saying that he went to Pitcairn and stuff, right?
I don't think
what was he doing in a pub in England?
He didn't say he went to Pitcairn, because he said we have no idea what happened to him. But he said that he was part of it all, which doesn't make any sense. This is one of the things we pointed out when you were away, actually.
Right.
Was that it doesn't make any sense that he's in a pub in England. Unless he's actually in a pub in Tahiti.
It didn't look like a Tahitian type of pub, did it? No, okay, right, I'm glad we got that.
Yeah, why isn't he dead? Unless he is dead. This is a ghost story.
Oh, man, yeah, this is the great pub in the sky.
Yes.
Layers upon layers in this film.
Is this actually the Opera Din?
Oh, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, there's a proper story.
Oh, if you want a video game recommendation, get Return of the Obra Dinn. So, and Andrew mentioned it to me. It's a ship sails into port, and there's nobody on it, even though it left harbour with a crew of 70 or something. And you are charged with going on and figuring out what happened and who died and how. And it's a wonderful game. Very clever.
If you want another video game recommendation, I would say Mario Tennis on Switch is really good.
Excellent. Cool. Well, I liked the 1980s Game Boy Tennis, which had Mario as the umpire. So, yeah. Any game recommendations, Laura?
I liked Air. I think I've mentioned that before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I tried that. I didn't like it.
Oh, fair enough.
Sorry.
I just like flying around as a bird.
Yeah, that bit was kind of cool. Oh, no, if you want flying around as a bird games, let me... Claire, any game recommendations?
Only ever Stardew Valley.
Yeah, okay. Well,
fair enough. Pokemon Snap was fun.
For us. Yeah, I don't know. The new one, I didn't quite click with it.
I never tried the old ones. So.
Okay.
Well, very good.
Yeah. So the film, eh?
So that film.
Before we move on to the film, are there any croquet video games? Because I haven't played croquet in such a long while.
Yeah, I've got a game on my phone, but it's like just a sort of trashy iOS game without really anything much going for it. It's pretty basic, but you get to play croquet. I love a bit of croquet.
Sport of sports.
Yeah. Proper game.
Is there also a Wii croquet?
No, I think I looked once. Not even on Wii Sports Resort is there croquet.
Can't believe the masses aren't calling out for a Wii croquet.
Yeah, we need to democratise croquet.
And Nintendo.
Oh, no.
Far too
Let's
good
not
to be.
culturally appropriate the Greeks. Let's do something else.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest take on democracy I've ever heard, but what's a valid one?
They didn't invent it for us, Laura. It's for them.
Well, you're not wrong. So the film, we're doing a lot of dancing around this film.
Yeah,
bit of a bad sign.
Was it? Yeah. So there, yeah, we had the frame story. It was at least kind of cool having the motif of the "Blow the Men Down" song coming back again and again.
Blow the man down, police, blow the man down. Hey, blow the man down. Blow the man down, you Liverpool town. Give me some time to blow the man down. Blow the man down, police, blow the man down. Hey, blow the man down. Blow the man down, you Liverpool town. Give me some time to blow the man down.
That shows some thought went into it.
Yeah.
Someone edited it and thought, let's have a motif.
Yeah. Yeah, we had the guys in the pub singing it, and then we had the guys on the bounty singing it, and then we had the guys with their Tahitian wives singing it, and also while pushing round this, well, I think that was for bringing the anchor in, right? But you'd think it was all they ever did on the ship. They built the hell out of that set. So I had one question.
Oh, yeah.
Which was at the edge of what parts of the film were documentary and what parts were not. This is the bit of acting at the end, which that we're on Pitcairn. We've learned all about it, and we see there is this wedding happening, and they show us the notice that's been posted of a wedding between these two people who are both called Christian. And that was kind of interesting. We saw their wedding, but then we saw, and the guy says, but not all of these notices are so happy. Here's one notice about a dying child. And we read the notice. We're given to believe that this is really what's happening on the island. And then the rest of the film is just this appalling drama, which ends with the child dying. So did the child really die? Were they there, and they were there when this kid died on the island, and
No.
I reckon they made that up, yeah.
Because they definitely presented that thing as if it was fact.
Yes, that's right. Yes, no, I don't think so.
In which case, there's such bullshit then being like, oh, here's a real wedding, and then, oh, here's a note we've put on that looks just like the real one. Because the only alternative... So either they made it up and just faked this note. Real. The wedding wasn't real? It was in with all the real stuff, wasn't it? I thought it looked real.
I thought they were just, like, staging things so that you would see what they looked like.
Oh, I thought it looked real as well, yeah.
Yeah, I thought they happened to be there with... Yeah, doesn't the narrator even say, like... Oh, well, I mean, what the narrator says in a drama could be anything.
It's not
so we don't even know if it was real. Yeah, okay. So yeah,
I reckon they put in the baby to be like... Because they'd gone ham on being like, this is a utopia. It's beautiful. We don't need the empire, but then they had to be like, but look, it's not all great on Utopia Island, in case you were thinking you want to leave Britain.
I see.
That we don't have a good in Britain. See? You don't have your kids dying in Britain.
No. Well said.
Who knows, though? I think it was quite a colonial film.
So this is something we can get into. Very inconsistent moralising, right?
Yes.
1 minute, Bligh was like the evil... Well, certainly in the drama, he's portrayed as like a comically, disastrously evil man. But then at the same time, they're like, and then the gang of evil mutineers rose up.
There's no heroes in this telling of the story.
With their barbaric... just stupidity overthrew a decent captain of the Royal Navy. I couldn't quite see what they were getting at. The same thing with the Tahitians.
Yeah, I made a note of every way that they refer to them.
Yeah, right. Can you take us through them? Because this is conflicting, right? There's a lot of different descriptions.
There's a lot of different descriptions. Let's see. A pagan race. Heathens, primitives, strange peoples, dark pagans, half-castes, dusky maids, mischievous brown girls.
Dusky maids and mischievous brown girls, yeah. Yeah, it was it was
and
very
you found
much
this troubling somehow.
It was very clear. He really did want to mention their race a lot, didn't he?
Yeah.
But I found it interesting that half the time they were portrayed as like, this is a beautiful island paradise, and they're, simple people living a happy life before they were, taken away and everything screwed up. And that seemed a bit patronising, but very, very positive for them. And then, the rest of the time, calling them heathens and...
Yeah, it couldn't decide whether it wanted to go noble savage or evil savage.
Yeah, as if that there were two writers that had different opinions, or more likely they were just copying out of two different books or something.
I like the two writers theory, that the fact that they would just go in and edit the script while the other one wasn't looking.
Yeah, I like it. And yeah, one of the writers was an admiral in the Royal Navy, and one of them was a communist or something.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Yeah, I couldn't quite make my mind up. Because again, they were talking about this, that the mutineers settled on a new island and built a new place for themselves. This is the field where Fletcher Christian was murdered by what remained of the mutineers. That said, I mean, it addressed it better than the other films we've had, right?
It was fun,
did say some stuff that was really true.
Yeah. Well, we've been saying the whole ones we wish we'd seen what happened in the aftermath.
Yeah.
And this kind of did that.
Yeah, well, I mean, parts of it were
literally
genuine footage of the literal aftermath, yeah.
Mm.
I loved the stuff like, this is the mill that was actually on the Bounty and they're still using it. Wow.
Brilliant.
Just brilliant. And I saw a YouTube clip of someone from 10 years ago on Pitcairn, and she had the Lord of the Rings box set on DVD and like a flat screen TV and stuff, and I just thought, this isn't what I wanted to see about Pitcairn. I wanted like, oh, is it just like anywhere else now? And
you want the beautiful dream of the past, you colonialist.
Yeah, I want all the people. Well, no, what I liked was the communal living, right? Because they'd I guess it was a colony, but they'd turned up and were hiding from the Empire and weren't discovered for quite a few decades and weren't interacted with for a century after that. So it didn't feel like this cynical outpost of a grasping imperialist nation. It felt like just some people who, had fucked up and just needed to build a new civilization and couldn't go anywhere else, and did it. And I just love this. They go out fishing, and like basically all the men on the island are on this boat. And then they do the fishing, and then they bring it in, and then they distribute the fish like according to need.
Mm.
But there was sort of this idea that the different families owned their own goats, so it was really interesting. This kind of communal living in a small community. It just really really captured me, and there's something kind of beautiful about it. Thank goodness for the Bible.
It made it quite clear it was all built on the Bible.
Yeah.
Old John
by
Adams.
all accounts, that was what stopped the killing. So I don't know.
Well, that's true.
On this occasion, maybe I'll go for the old Bible.
Oh dear. What else? I liked it when he said, "What girls? What gays? What nights?"
I don't remember now.
Come, let us drink to those Tahiti days, to those girls. Ha, 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 me lads, what girls, what days, what nights.
And there was a bit where they were turning the wheel, and this is just an example of some really bad acting, and I remember it, although now I can't really remember how he said it, but he was like, "He's not the only one mad about a girl." He sounded like that.
Very much there. Their priority was making sure they could be heard clearly on the recording, right? They really weren't thinking we need to make this nice and natural.
I think a common priority, I think to all the Bounty films, has been showing women's breasts.
Good point. I forgot to write this down to bring it up.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Hays Code, which didn't come in until the 40s.
It's got to be pre-Hays Code.
Yeah, and they call these sorts of films pre-code films, don't they? Because they've got boobs. we got some boobs, all right. And they were very much shying away from the boobs in the 1935 version, no boobs.
No boobs, and no boobs in the 60s even.
Even in the 60s version, they were hinting at the boobs, but they didn't show any.
And then the Bounty was really going wild on the boobs.
Making up for lost time in the Bounty, weren't they? But this, they were just like, they.
I read they had very big trouble getting this through the censorship board in Australia.
Right, I can imagine. I was surprised.
He successfully argued that there'd been a minister present while they were filming.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, it's all legit then.
What was it? Was it like the minister on Pitcairn Island? Because it's a bit different.
No, I think genuinely they got away with this by National Geographic level racism of being like, they're not real women.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's not like they're Christian women.
Exactly. Like,
Yeah, okay. Oh, dear. Does National Geographic do a lot of that?
yeah, there's quite a big discourse about how racist the National Geographic was until recently, and even maybe some of the recent episodes, but just exoticizing women and the fact that I read an article about this in Anthropology, young boys would buy the National Geographic because they would always show like copious amount of breasts from
Yeah, okay.
the indigenous populations they were looking at.
Yeah, like looking up dirty words in the dictionary.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was definitely the worst bounty film we've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. How would you rank the other ones?
Well,
I'm going to say clear winner,
clear winner.
but maybe not for everyone here.
Yeah. Well, we are soon going to have...
Oh, you're right. We should postpone
We are
this.
soon going to have an awards ceremony, and I don't mind giving away that I'm going to push for a best bounty film category. So we'll have time to argue it out in full.
I think we should have a separate Oscar ceremony for the best bounty so that we can get into real grit and detail of best Bly, best Christian.
10-hour deep dive.
Wins the best bounty film.
Imagine, I'd be furious. You're totally going to do that, aren't you?
If
Just
you
submit a
guys
nod
think
bounty.
that that's going to be funny, then you've got another thing coming.
There will be a mutiny.
Yes. You bloody bastard.
Oh, now we have to make sure that a non-bounty film wins that category.
Oh.
Our hopes and dreams shattered upon the rocks of Pitcairn Island.
Let it be Encanto.
A film we've not even seen.
I'm glad we've watched one like shit early talkie that didn't know what it was doing, because that is a genre of film.
Yeah,
And this was felt like an important part of the history of film,
it did.
and so I'm glad we've done that. I'm glad we have. Well, I'm glad it's only been one so far, and I'm certainly not planning to pick any more.
Yes, I think that's enough for me.
I mean, I was thinking of picking the jazz singer as the first famous, like the first proper talkie, but I watched a clip from it on YouTube and it was really fucking weird and I didn't like it in the sort of the same way, just sort of off-putting and alien, and I don't want to watch it.
You didn't think to watch a YouTube clip of this film?
Well, I was all signed up to this film. We had to watch all the bounty films.
I think I was thinking of writing on Letterboxd that I'm glad that Fast and Furious did not invent making a franchise out of things. And clearly the bounty is also... They made Bounty 1, Bounty 2, Bounty 3, Bounty 7. Now we're in Bounty 14. So it's a practice that has been in the industry for long and was not invented by Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. For any listeners, Fernando on Letterboxd. If you can find his Letterboxd, it's a treat.
I'll say it. F. Flores Brito
Wonderful.
on Letterboxd.
Great.
Yeah, I've very much enjoyed reading your reviews.
Me too.
Oh, I also very much enjoy reading your reviews. Thank you for inviting me to Letterboxd. I'm not sure why it took me so long to join.
Yeah.
When I was born.
Final thoughts?
I like that they were just trying to get a job done with the narrative. Didn't feel like they put any thought into it at all. They were like, we need to take this off, this off. Mutiny done. Show them harassing him in his bed. Yep. They didn't even go into the voyage, which is one of the most interesting parts of the story.
Yeah.
We have no idea. I guess they're telling it from the point of view of someone who wouldn't know. But then he was in England. Anyway, just,
Yeah.
I like a shoddy job.
It was weak, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But they did it.
They
and it's
certainly
done.
did. Yeah.
So, whatever.
Yeah.
Fernando, final thoughts?
If we were to cast all men as women and women as men, would this be a gay porn film?
Yeah, I think so. There's been a lot of dicks. Excellent stuff.
That was my last thought.
Yeah,
nice.
This would have been the best gay porn film that we've watched in this film club.
Do you reckon it would have beat out?
It would have beaten Pink Narcissus for me. I think my closing thought was I'm glad this film was made, if only for the documentary bit that just captured a little slice of what the world was like at one time. I think that's good. And I think you could cut it down to a half-hour documentary and get rid of all of the crap, and it would have been a lot better.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone who made this film and spent hours on it, but also you're all dead now, so I don't care.
Nice parting words for the dead.
See ya.
Oh, dear. Do you know any good poems, Fernando?
Poems?
Yeah. Michael and Claire seem to be gone.
I do. So I'm going to tell you one of my favorite poems. Here it is. O sweet spontaneous earth, how often have the doting fingers of prurient philosophers pinched and poked thee? Has the naughty thumb of science prodded thy beauty? How often have religions taken thee upon their scroggy knees, squeezing and buffeting thee, that thou mightest conceive gods? But true to the incomparable couch of death, thy rhythmic lover, thou answerest them only with spring.
Wow.
Cool.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
What's the name of the poem?
Oh, sweet spontaneous. Do you have any favorite poems, Laura?
Yeah. I really like The Listeners by Walter de la Mare.
The Listeners.
Oh, I
Never
can hear
heard
a
of
baby
Walter de la
crying.
Mare.
I don't know any of his other poems. I should have looked them up because I really like this poem.
But Laura, how can you ever read something this long?
I find it quite short.
What? There are more than 2 lines.
I mean, you know, when you look at other poems are longer.
And how long did it take you to read this whole poem?
This whole poem? I reckon I could knock that out in about 5 minutes.
You sure
In fact,
you did
I
that
think
in
we
5
could read-
days?
I think we could read the whole thing before Michael and Claire get back.
Okay, please read it. I'd love to hear you read your poem.
Okay. Is there anybody there? Said the traveller, knocking on the moonlit door, and his horse in the silence champed the grasses of the forest's ferny floor. And a bird flew up out of the turret, above the traveller's head, and he smote upon the door again a second time. Is there anybody there? He said. But no one descended to the traveller, no head from the leaf-fringed sill leaned over and looked into his grey eyes, where he stood perplexed and still. But only a host of phantom listeners that dwelt in the lone house then stood listening in the quiet of the moonlight to that voice from the world of men, stood thronging the faint moonbeam on the dark stair that goes down to the empty hall, hearkening in an air stirred and shaken by the lonely traveller's call. And he felt in his heart their strangeness, their stillness answering his cry, while his horse moved, cropping the dark turf neath the starred and leafy sky. For he suddenly smote on the door, even louder, and lifted his head. Tell them I came, and no one answered, that I kept my word, he said. Never the least stir made the listeners, though every word he spake fell echoing through the shadowiness of the still house, from the one man left awake. Aye, they heard his foot upon the stirrup, and the sound of iron on stone, and how the silence surged softly backward when the plunging hoofs were gone.
I guess you win the bet. You
Well,
finished
there we
reading the
go.
whole poem. Yeah,
It
you
takes
finished
longer
reading
to
the whole
soothe a
poem.
crying baby than to read The Listeners by Walter de la Mare.
One
I'm
more
back.
reason why.
Maybe I didn't win.
Whoa.
That was a cool poem.
It's a great poem. It's called The Listeners by Walter de la Mare.
Okay.
It rhymes.
Oh, I didn't notice. I only really like poems that rhyme.
Normally I prefer ones that don't rhyme.
All right.
Have you read any of Tim Key's
You mean
poems?
prose?
Yeah, I guess I do mean prose. Yeah, have you read any of Tim Key's poetry?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, I'll have to find one. They're not really... I mean, they don't rhyme.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find one. They're very good. Okay, you ready for one?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, it's titled Poem.
Oh, man.
Okay, quote marks. Bung me down as queen. Huh? Charles peered over his half-mooners. Really? Well, I'm the queen, so yeah. I mean, Charles was pinching his scrotum awkwardly through his kilt. I mean, yeah, as in, yeah, in a way, I guess. As in, I'm certainly the king, obviously, hence the, he pointed to his crown with his thumb. Camilla stamped on a croquet ball, and her tanzanite heel crumpled. You know what? Don't bother. Put me down as a basic fucking woman. Who cares? I'm putting queen. Charles boshed queen into his MacBook Pro and sipped his breakfast cocktail. His ears swung against the sides of his jet chair. Royal bees collected pollen in velvet sacks. William played in a treehouse, marginally out of shot.
Was that the whole thing?
Yes.
That was appalling. I hate it. Was that like...
No, he's a comedian.
Satire?
Yeah,
okay.
he's a comedian.
I didn't really
get
get
another
it.
one? I'm
Why
going to do
not?
one more. It's a short one. My monkey escaped. This was all I needed. I grabbed my net and ran onto the street. Cyril! I charged around his favourite haunts and eventually cornered him in Fatface. Myself and the frankly fantastic assistant manager linked hands. She was done up in various reassuring garments from her own shop floor and smelt strongly of tangerines.
There's something sort of pleasing about them, isn't there?
Yeah.
It does occur to me that they're not poems, right?
I mean,
There's a short story.
they're all titled poem.
Okay. It's to hear it. It does just sound like sort of like a short story, right? But I bet there's lots of line breaks. Are there more line breaks?
Yeah. There's loads of line breaks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, then it's a poem.
Yep.
Can I share one of my favourite poems with you?
Yeah, please.
I really like this one. It's short as well, which is good. It's called The Iliad, but sorry. No, it's called Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Do you know this?
No.
Right. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake, to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep.
Wow. That was bloody brilliant.
It's just great. I don't even know why. I just know that I really like it.
Excellent. I like the part about the bells.
Yeah, you can sort of hear them.
Yes, I could hear them.
Hear them with the wind behind, just slightly muffled by the snow. Oh, I really feel it when I see that. Reminds me of the poem Ozymandias, which I'd like to share with you now.
I mean, I'm up for it. We've got to fill the time somehow.
Oh, do you know what? Since we've done so many. This is short as well. Do you know this one? By
No.
Percy Shelley?
No.
I met a traveller from an antique land who said, 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear, My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away.
That was very good. I enjoyed that.
It's a good poem.
It's a good poem, yeah.
Just this feeling of like people used to be here and they lived their whole lives and these things were so important to them. And someone spent all day drawing those pictures and thought that they were the only people who would ever live on those islands. And now they're just gone and we know almost nothing about them. And there's just some like runaway convicts that live there now.
Wow, I wonder if we'll be
cool.
like that when, the climate crisis destroys most of civilization. And then in 1,000 years, they'll just find a fragment of the Statue of David.